Today is something very, very important because in these next few moments, we're going to talk about two great deceptions, or what I want to talk about is two mystical myths. And these two mystical myths, I'm going to say they're new, but they're not. Because the devil hasn't changed his ways. The same two deceptions that have happened thousands of years ago are going to happen very soon and are, I would say, happening, beginning the undertones right now. But they're going to be in a greater, massive effect globally. So we'll be talking about these two mystical myths. Let me ask you, though, have you ever gone to one of those meetings where you were invited by a friend or a family, and there was chairs, kind of like a little church, and in that meeting, the music was pumping up, and it was getting your juices flowing, and you were excited, and they were selling on the screen maybe wealth and luxury and ease and all these wonderful things, and maybe they paraded a few people in front that were successful and that had made it and were making tens of thousands of dollars on a weekly basis. And so they had pumped you up with this emotional high, and all you had to do was buy. Just sign up and buy. Just purchase, buy into this system, whatever it was. We see a lot of that, right? And maybe you did. Maybe you did get into it and you found out it wasn't everything they were talking about. There was a whole lot more to it. Almost had to sell your soul in order to become successful. That is going to be happening very soon, but globally. It may be music that's going to be a part of it, but it will absolutely be deceptive. In fact, the Scripture says that if it were possible, even the most perceptive people would be deceived. Even the most close to God, the elect, would be deceived if it were possible, meaning those are the only ones who will not be deceived, but the rest of the world will. So what is it going to take? How are we going to be in the elect so that we're not deceived? What is it going to take so that those that we love, we can prepare for, our children or our friends or our parents, so that they won't be deceived? So I'm saying it's going to be happening very soon. It's not just a feeling, it's what I see. It's what I read in Scripture and what I see in the world around. So let's take a look. The text today is taken from Revelation 12 and verse 9. Does someone have that?
Revelation 12:9. So the great dragon was cast out, that serpent of old, called the devil and Satan, who deceives the whole world. He was cast to the earth, and his angels were cast out with him.
Yes, thank you. So this first thing we have to understand. Ask ourselves, is there really a being called the devil? Is he really alive, or is it just some feeling of badness? You know, like they say today, you have an emotional good angel and an emotional bad angel, or you have a yin and yang, an evil and good always fighting within you, but none of them ever really winning, right? Is the devil for real, or is it just an emotion that we call the devil? That's what we need to know. Because if you want to win a war, you have to know thy enemy, right? So is the enemy just an emotion that we need to battle, or is the enemy a for real being that we need to understand his characteristics in order to fight it? So let's dig into it. leaving, and this is taken from the Great Controversy, page 495, leaving his place in the immediate presence of God. Okay, in the immediate presence of God is something, leaving his place. Lucifer went forth to diffuse the spirit of discontent among the angels, working with mysterious secrecy and for a time concealing his real purpose under an appearance of reverence for God. He endeavored to excite dissatisfaction concerning the laws that governed heaven and heavenly beings, intimating that they imposed an unnecessary restraint. Okay, so here it doesn't seem like it's just an emotion of beings. It seems to me from this that there is a literal being stepping outside of the presence of God and causing discontent among other beings, right? And what was his argument? Do you remember? First, he used mysterious secrecy. That's why today we're talking about the two great mystical myths. Because here he's using mysterious secrecy. Mysterious means what? Something that's not really understood, right? Sin wasn't ever supposed to crop up. Sin and selfishness was something that was unheard of in all the universe. Never had anything to do with our holy Creator, God, until it was found in the lies and deceits of the devil. So here he excites dissatisfaction concerning what? The laws of heaven. So there were laws in heaven, right? Just like there are laws here. If you were to travel at a high speed and go over the maximum speed limit, you would most likely, if you continue to do that at some point, be what? Stopped by a police officer who does what? Gives you a ticket for disobeying what? The law. Why is there a law? Why is there a law that you need to stop at a stop sign? Why is there a law that you're not supposed to cut people off, first use your blinker? Right? Why are there laws to help us govern and keep us so in a way that we know that we can act as people together? If it was just you, right? Whoa! If you were the only one in the world, go as fast as you want to because you're not going to hurt anybody but yourself if you crash. But this is the reason there's laws, so that we can all be safe and that we can all be happy and joyous within these boundaries of these perfect laws. But in Eden, Satan disguised himself as a serpent and used trickery against Eve. So he disguised himself. It was something that he then formulated into something else. He's much smarter, more powerful, and craftier than any of us, which is why we need to cling to Jesus and to His Word in order to protect ourselves from his wiles. We will look at some of the devil's most effective deceptions and how we can be protected from them. But first, we still have to determine if he's for real. So let's do that. Let's dig into Scripture and find out who is this, what is this, and is he for real? Because if he is, now then we can learn his characteristics of these two mystical deceptions. So, did you know that carrots don't really improve your eyesight for seeing in the dark? But in World War II, this was propagated, right, by the British. They said that if you eat more carrots, you'll be able to see better in the blackouts. You'll be able to see in the dark better. Why would they do this? They did this because they were trying to keep something secret from the enemy. What they were trying to keep secret was the new technology of radar. And so in order to keep that secret, they said our pilots are much better and they can see where you are in the dark because they eat more carrots. And it seemed to work because it's then been known that they were then giving their troops and their pilots more carrots and feeding them more carrots and on the streets. And it wasn't just them who believed it. most of the world then started to believe it. Even in America, they were believing. They were serving carrots on a stick to kids as if it was a popsicle. So there was a deception, right? So deceptions means here is something I want you to believe because I don't want you to see what's behind it. I don't want you to see the truth. There's the deception. First, though, let's get to know who the enemy is. Is it a real bad guy, or is it just an emotion? Let's look at Revelation 12, 7 through 9.
And war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought with the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought. But they did not prevail, nor was a place found for them in heaven any longer. So the great dragon was cast out, that serpent of old, called Devil and Satan, who deceives the whole world. He was cast to the earth, and his angels were cast out with him.
So there was what in heaven? A war in heaven. How can there be a battle, literal battle, if there's nothing or another being to battle against? There was a literal battle it wasn't a meeting of the minds. It was a physical battle that happened in heaven, the holy place, between the devil and his angels. And then what happens here? We see in Revelation 12, 17. Do we have that? Let me see here. Revelation 12, 17. I'll read it here. And the dragon was enraged with the woman, and he went to make war with the rest of her offspring, who keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. So Revelation 12, 17 says something about another war, but now it's taken to earth. So here in Revelation 12, 17, we see that this dragon, which is another name for that Lucifer who became the devil, who is now the dragon, and against us, is making war against the woman, which means church in prophecy.
And the dragon was enraged. And the dragon was enraged with the woman, and he went to make war with the rest of her offspring, who keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ.
Yes, and then what does it say in chapter 20, verse 2? Does someone have that? Revelation 20, verse 2.
He laid hold of the dragon, that serpent of old, who is the devil and Satan, and bound him for 1,000 years.
Okay, so here we say he laid hold. How can you lay hold of something unless it's literal, right? You lay hold of something that's real, a being that can be grasped. And then here, 20 verse 10.
The devil who deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet are, and they will be tormented day and night forever and ever. And someday maybe you can explain that.
Absolutely. So he laid hold of him first, and then what did they do with him? Cast him into the lake of fire, right? Cast him into the lake of fire where he was tormented forever until he was no more. So he was tormented, but he had to be laid hold of and then cast. This is not a thought. This is a reality, a being that had to be grasped. These are the characteristics that prove he is real. Then we know now the enemy. We know the enemy, we can learn his characteristics, and now we know what we need to do to battle him. At least we're going to learn this. Of all of Satan's devices, his greatest deception is his ability to cause people to believe that he does not exist. Right? How does a spider capture his prey? Is the web really bright orange? Right? What do you know about a web? It's translucent for the most part, right? It's thin. You can't even tell it's there. I mean, I think all of us, it happens to me often. I'm walking and I'm going somewhere, and the web hits me in the face. I'm like, oh, okay, I better find the spider because I want to make sure it's there and not here. So I get that web off me. Okay, there's the spider. Here, you can have your web back. But This is how deception works. It deceives because the best way is to think that he's not even there. If he's not even there, then he can't hurt me, right? You can't see me. If I'm not there, I can't hurt you. But let's stop blaming our loving Jehovah for the works of the fallen angel. Just because we can't see him doesn't mean that it's God. Bad things don't happen to people because of God. It's because of the deception of the devil who wants to remain anonymous and say, hey, I'm not alive, so don't blame it on me. He is. He's alive and he's well. But what power does the devil have to fool us? What power does he have? What is he given? What abilities does he have to fool us? Let's take a look in 2 Corinthians 11, 13 through 14. 2 Corinthians 11, 13 through 14.
For such are false apostles, deceitful workers, transforming themselves into apostles of Christ. And no wonder, for Satan himself transformed himself into an angel of light.
Yes, thank you. So what does Satan do? He has the ability to transform himself into what? An angel of light, right? Of all things. And how did he present himself to Jesus in the wilderness when Jesus was famished, almost to death, starving? He was led into the wilderness by the Holy Spirit, but not to be tempted of the devil, just to prepare himself for ministry. The devil then saw an opportunity. I'm going to get him at his weakest because that's when I can get humans. And if I can get him to use his heavenly power, that will prove to the world that it's impossible to follow God without heavenly power. Did Jesus use his heavenly power to overcome the devil in the wilderness? No. How did the devil, though, show up? Did he show up as a guy with a pointy tail and a pitchfork and horns in red? No. How did he show up? As an angel of light. How does he show up sometimes to us? As an angel of light that has wonderful information to bring you into all likeness and understanding. This is how he shows up to us today. And this is how he showed up to Jesus. And how did Jesus defeat him? If you are the Son of God, I know you just heard your Father in heaven say, this is my beloved Son in whom I am well pleased. But let me just ask you, let's make sure that was really God talking. Maybe you're the fallen one. Maybe you're the one that was kicked out of heaven, and that's why you're emaciated right now and starving. So prove yourself. If you are the Son of God, turn these stones into bread. And what did Jesus say? It is written. It is written every time. He said it is written. Every time we need to do the same. He's telling you, tell evil when it comes. It is written. No, it is written. He didn't go, just a second, let me look this one up. It was here, hidden in his heart. Do you eat the word of God daily so that you know what is written? So when temptation comes, it will not deceive you. It is written. And here, what do we see in 2 Thessalonians 2, verses 9 and 10? Push it up. There you go.
Lawless one is according to the working of Satan with all power, signs and lying wonders, and with all unrighteous deception among those who perish, because they did not receive the love of the truth, and they might be saved.
Okay, so what are the working of Satan? What are those workings? Power. What else is there? Signs, wonders. He has the ability to create things that you're not familiar with. And if it's mysterious to you, whoa, it must be godly. Right? This is how he's going to deceive us with signs and wonders and transformations of himself. But who does he really deceive? Right here in verse 10. 2 Thessalonians 2, verse 10, it says, because they did not receive the love of truth, that they might be saved. Are you receiving the love of truth? Are you in love with the truth? Or are you just willing to accept whatever YouTube tells you? Are you willing to just accept whatever Google or Facebook or Twitter says? Are you in love with the world? If you're in love with the world, you cannot be in love with God. You cannot follow the truth. You must be in love with the truth to know deception when it comes, or you will be deceived. So it gives power to other entities, to signs, to fake miracles, deceiving those not wanting the truth. Can the devil make someone sick? Can he bring in illness and disease? Absolutely. As much as he can bring it, he can remove it to make it look like a miracle has happened. Right? But when God heals, he heals forever. God brings eternity to the soul and to the body. There are two big last day deceptions that we're going to rocket into right now. Those two things, I'm going to say what they are. Some might not believe them, but then we're going to prove them. Those two great deceptions. What happens when you die? For real. What happens when you die? And two, the changing of the Sabbath. And what does that have to do with Darwin? Two mystical myths. Here in the Great Controversy, page 588. Ellen explains what two of grand deceptions are. Through the two great errors, the immortality of the soul and Sunday sacredness, Satan will bring people under his deception. While the former lays the foundation of spiritualism, meaning the mortality of the soul, the latter, meaning the sacredness of Sunday, creates a bond of sympathy with Rome. The Protestants of the United States will be foremost in stretching their hands across the gulf to grasp the hand of spiritualism. They will reach over the abyss to clasp their hands with the Roman power. And under the influence of the threefold union, this country will follow the steps of Rome in trampling on the rights of conscience. I'm learning, too, many of us will be deceived. Our DNAs are being changed with sometimes the food that we eat. Food that we eat or not eating that's putting into our bodies. But here we see this threefold union. Do you know the best way to tell a false $20 bill from a real $20 bill? You know how to tell? Someone gives you a $20 bill. Yeah, this is good. Or, hey, this is false, I'm turning you in. Know the true $20 bill. You study the true $20 bill. You see the thing inside. You see there's lots of things you can see just with the naked eye. There's other things you can't see through a black light and through other lighting. But if you know for real what a $20 bill looks like, even the feeling, even the paper, only the American government has this paper. So you could feel it in your hands if it's the false paper. You study the $20 bill, the $100 bill, the $1 bill, you'll know a false from a real one. You'll know if that's play money, false money from a real one. So what are these last two mystical myths that are about to happen on us? One, the immortality of the soul. Let's take a look at Ecclesiastes 9, verses 5, 6, and 10.
For the living know that they will die, but the dead know nothing.
Wait a second. Okay. So we're alive, right? And we all know that there are two things, right? There's death and taxes. So we all know we're going to die. Unless Jesus comes in these next few years, we're all going to die. But what do the dead know? Nothing. It says right there in Ecclesiastes 9, verse 5. Nada. Zilch. And go on, please.
And they have no more reward, for the memory of them is forgotten. Also their love, their hatred, and their envy have now perished. Nevermore will they have a share in anything done under the sun. Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with all your might, for there is no work or device or knowledge or wisdom in the grave where you are going.
Wow, so isn't this pretty clear? It's clear to me. I hope it is to you. To the grave where you are going, there is no work. There's nothing. Now is the day for something to happen. But there's nothing to do once you are dead. Nothing. No work, no dancing, no singing, no thinking, no emotions. Because when you're dead, you're dead. I like to describe it like a light bulb. When God knelt down in the soil and in the mud and created Adam And he formed him with water and with dirt and soil. He created his organs. He created his heart. He created his brain. He created his eyes, his mouth. Everything was there, his toes, his fingers, his whole body was there. Was he alive? He was still dead. But his body's right there. His brain is right there. It's all there. Then what did he do to make him alive? He breathed the breath of life. Pneuma. He breathed his breath into Adam and then raised up to be a living being. When you die, the breath is taken from you. Not your soul, your breath. Pneuma, spirit. The spirit is oxygen. It's taking out of you where you no longer have oxygen anymore, and it goes back up into the heavens where we all share that oxygen. That's what's taken from you. But God saves your soul. He holds everything about you. He knows who you are, what makes you tick, every thought that you ever had, every emotion that makes you who you are, because you are different than anybody else that's ever been created and ever will be created. You are special. You're more special to Him than to anyone. And so He holds that speciality and reserves it until the day of the resurrection. What else we have here in Psalms 146:4? Let's not just take one verse and then build a religion out of it. Let's search the Scriptures from forward to backward, from Genesis to Revelation, and find out the truth that we can stand on. Yes, here in Psalms 146:4.
His spirit departs. He returns to his earth. In that very day, his plans perish.
Spirit departs. Remember, the spirit is pneuma, that's the breath. Departs. In that very day, you've got no more plans, buddy. It's all over. Daniel 12:2. What does it say?
And many of those who sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, some to shame and everlasting contempt.
Okay, so those who are in the dust, awake. Hey, if there's an eternal immortal soul, then what are you getting up for? You've already been up. Right? That means that they are dead. They are asleep, as we like to call it. So everything's there. God holds the soul. He puts the soul back into the body, gives breath back into your body, then you become awake again. Even if you're burned and your ashes are scattered everywhere, can God put those back together? If He can speak birds into existence and whales into existence, can He not reformulate and speak you back into existence? Yes, He can. You will come back to life. And remember what Jesus told Mary after He raised from the dead. He has a flesh, bone, body. And what did He say to her? Don't touch me. I have not yet raised to heaven, right, to be accepted of God. But if we live on and on and on, then Jesus would have gone all over the place. He would have gone to heaven, and then it's just weird, right? That's not truth. That's spiritualism. As long as anyone believes that at death the soul goes on living in one form or another, that person is wide open to most occult or spiritualistic deceptions that can easily promote the idea, either openly or by implication, that you don't need Jesus. So if you believe that your soul, your body, or your soul or the spirit, and you're all confused and messed up, I die and then that goes on living in some other being or some other way or form or fashion, then really there's no need for God, right? Why do I need God if this is just going to transform into a beetle or into a cow or into another baby or into another person, right? There's no use for it. This is a spiritualism and occultistic activities. Remember, the devil can impersonate also dead people. Do you recall King Saul asking the witch of Endor to raise Samuel? We all know that wasn't Samuel, right? And then the second, time is running short, the second mystical myth today we're talking about that's about to happen is the Sabbath and the theory of evolution, how they work together. Let's read Genesis 1 through 5. Genesis 1.
In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. Then God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw the light that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. So the evening and the morning were the first day.
Great reading. Thank you. So God created the heavens and the earth, right? And it says here very specifically, he must have known, and this is why he inspired Moses to write specifically the way he did, that there would be questions or doubts about how long it actually took him to do it. He must have known, because what does he say? In the evening and in the morning were the first day. And then he does something else. He does the second day. And guess what he does after the second day? The evening and the morning were the second day. How more simple can we get than a 24-hour period in which God had created something, was an evening and then in the morning. And God rested an evening and in the morning. And that was the seventh day. There are 7 days to our weekly cycle. 6 days of which he created things for this planet. And especially for the first time ever in all of, well, I don't know if you can even call it history, but in forever from before, he created time. The first time that he creates time is at this point when he creates our earth. First evening and morning, evening and morning. This is the first time, and he creates it for a purpose, very specific purpose, because for the first time ever, he creates you and me, beings that are to be like him, created in his image. He creates us and wants time with us. First, everything was planned and calculated. Nothing had to do with randomness or arbitrary or by change or chance. And then second, the text reveals unambiguously that each creature was made after its own kind. That is, each one was made separately and distinctly from the other. So there is no missing link to be found. A dog is a dog, no matter how many variations of a dog it is, or a cat. There's not going to be a dog cat, except for amalgamations that we do, that we could do, that are being done throughout the world in some places in secret. But God doesn't do that, and he doesn't leave things to chance. He didn't create you and then say, have at it, I hope it works out. He created you and says, work with me, seek me and find me, and I will be filled in your heart. If you seek after me, you will find me. Nothing was random at creation. Why do so many people interpret Genesis through the lens of theory that at the most basic level contradicts Genesis at its most basic level? A theory about what happened is just a theory at its most basic level, when Genesis here is explosive and real and very specific. Evolution denotes the seventh day of any real importance, denotes it, the seventh day of any real importance, because it turns 6 days of creation into nothing but a myth. Similarly to the one that says Romulus and Remus were nursed by wolves. Also, who, believing that creation required billions of years instead of only 6 days, would actually risk persecution or death by standing for the Sabbath as opposed for the Sunday. So that's what's going to happen. So there's deceptions going on, 2 great deceptions. But one reason that Charles Darwin, the originator of the theory, promoted evolution was this: not understanding the great controversy. He had a difficult time reconciling evil and suffering with the idea of a benevolent and loving creator. There had to be a reason, he thought. It wasn't a coincidence either that during the mid to late 1800s, as Darwin was revising and reworking this theory of evolution, what did God do? He raised up a movement, the Seventh-day Adventist Church, which countered everything for which Darwin's theory stood for. You are the moment. You are the movement. You have a clear understanding of the truth, What are we doing with it? Because what his theory is promulgated all over the earth. But what about the truth? Where does it stand? Why are we hiding? So what are the two great deceptions for us to be aware of? What happens when you die? And the Sabbath sacredness. How do we keep from being deceived? How do you know? Remember, how do you know a $20 bill? How do you know the truth? Study the truth. If you know the truth, when you see the faults coming, you'll know. How do you know that the children in your house are your children? You know your children. Another child comes and knocks on your doors and says, hey, I'm your son. No, you're not. I know my children. You're not. I can tell in your voice you're not my child, right? Or a parent. How do you know? Because you love them. You work with them. You study them. You feed them. Feed yourself the truth. Deception will not overtake you. Thank you.